Now, how can Africa deal with rules of origin in a way that prioritizes the local development of countries, whilst also setting an ambitious enough target to stimulate the development of regional value chains?
I think there is some massive work which exists, which was done by UNCTAD and made in Africa to support rules of origin negotiations. This literature is still ongoing. And then the WTC, the World Customs Organization, has been able to develop guidelines on rules of origin under the AfCFTA. This work is existing already. It provides ample knowledge on how countries can negotiate rules of origin that makes industrialization in Africa an achievement.
Whilst prioritizing national interests.
While prioritizing national interests and again looking at development of regional value chains. No single country in the world today is producing aircrafts. No single country in the world today is producing textile from end to end.
Yes.
No single country today is producing automotive from end to end. No vehicle is being produced in a single country because they are countries where, when you look at the competitive advantage,
much better in some countries than others. For
absolutely.
Example, Kings in Taiwan.
Therefore, a country should not look at the production chain as a sole-owned concept. But then there are initiatives that are knocking at African doors today. With the shift in global dynamics, with Trump tariffs today hitting major trading players.
South Africa by 30% here, 25%.
The opportunity is for Africa today to look at how the textile sector can be developed. You talked about the case of Lesotho. Lesotho today has been hit by the US in terms of tariff, 15%, which the industry players are seeing as a serious handicap for their competitiveness
300,000 jobs which will be
in the global market. But that offers an opportunity for Africa again to be able to re-strategize and tap into the textile sector. Let me take the case of Cameroon. We're importing second-hand cloth in Africa, and the case of Cameroon is peculiar. Whereas we're exporting cotton to Bangladesh, to India.
Yes, it's really cotton.
And then this cotton goes to Bangladesh and India. It's being transformed into apparel, exported to the US market and Europe, worn. And these dresses, once they are out of use, they are repackaged and exported to the country which exported cotton. That led to the manufacturing of this apparel. It's something that's very difficult to understand. But I can tell you, recent information is signaling a brighter future for our cotton sector. It's public knowledge. The Prime Minister head of government inaugurated an industrial site in Douala, where the port of Douala is partnering with an international, well-established actor in the industry to transform our cotton locally into finished products, which we need to generate a domestic market for those products, and then again look at the regional market in terms of the AfCFTA.
Talking about this,
and therefore the need to accelerate rules of origin negotiations on textile. But then it is not unique to the AfCFTA. Negotiations on textile products, value chain, has always been a complex process. Even at the WTO, negotiations on these issues have been complex because it's a very sensitive sector. Why? Because when you go to the north, where cotton is being produced, you look at the players, the job opportunities offered by this. It's on skill level.
Yes.
Women and youth are predominantly putting in labor into this industry and making their living out of it. So if the negotiations are not done in a way that the value chain is protecting the vulnerable, the skilled labor standard. When you look at now, in terms of the transformation process, those who are in the textile industry, Lesotho, again, let's go back to Lesotho and look at those who are paying the price for Trump tariffs in Lesotho. They are women. and youths who are working in the textile industry. They are on skill level, and the training for the textile industry takes basically 1 month and 2. And they are able to sit down there and do a repetitive task for over years
without gaining any significant skill.
And once they leave the industry, they become unemployed.
It's impossible for them to
redeploy them now into new sectors.
They have to be retrained, which requires a different set
So
of
those are the
policies.
sensitivity in the textile industry. And that's why negotiating rules of origin in this sector takes into account
if I can take
all
you on
the
a
sectors.
tangent, Mr. Baba, like if I can just take you on a quick tangent. We've seen the number of countries such as Rwanda, Burkina Faso, impose bans, not outright bans, but raise tariffs so much for second-hand clothes. Is it a good idea for us to increase those tariffs to the point where we discourage imports if we don't have value chains who can substitute the previous imports? Or is it important for us to adopt a hand-in-hand approach where even if those products fall under the sensitive categories for product liberalization under the AfCFTA, we also have a quantifiable increase in the production of these textiles? Like which approach might be preferable for
just a quick one.
regional origins?
Those are complementary policy measures which must be taken. The AfCFTA agreement provides for that.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it provides for that.
Yes,
The WTO framework for infant industries provides for that framework. Rwanda simply imposed a ban on the importation of second-hand cloth into the country because there was an industrial policy that prioritized the textile cotton value chain. The immediate effect is that they were kicked out of AGOA. But then, when you look at the domestic industry, the cotton value chain today in Rwanda, it has grown, created job, GDP growth, and played a significant role in the economic development.
The resilience in terms of jobs and also
let me tell you,
job standards across
the import of second-hand cloth is a real problem in Africa.
Environmental,
as well as second-hand cloth, second-hand vehicles, second-hand electronics, second-hand computers. Everything is second-hand in Africa. And therefore, it is playing a negative role in the industrial development of Africa. Yes, it also has a positive side because of the purchasing power. But then, if these goods are manufactured on the continent and under the AfCFTA framework with inputs being generated across the continent,
then
when we talk about computer chips, for example,
benefits. Computer
chips
is a monopoly, right? It's TMC,
the raw material is coming from Africa, the DRC and other countries, contributing to the production of this NVIDIA, which is the leading player in the computer chip industry in the US, need to start looking at how they can locate some production units on the continent.
So this means
and we need to review industrial policy, therefore, to push these countries to start doing value addition on the continent.
To transform the raw material
into second or third class transformation before being exported. We don't refuse that these countries have the technology which we lack. But then in the long run, we need to start saying this. China took out from nowhere. But their policy was designed in a way that upon joining the WTO in 2000, China had a plan.
Now, Indonesia is imposing such a policy, and so it might be instructive for African countries. But beyond rules of origin, which are highly technical, thank you for providing some clarity. Another issue that Africans face is the question of trading in foreign currencies. Every year, Africa loses about $5 million because we have to convert our local currencies into dollars or the euros before we can buy a product from Egypt or purchase a car from South Africa or a pair of jeans from Lesotho. Now with the Pan-African payment and settlement system, this is going to change because businesses can obtain prepaid cards that allow them to make payments across the continent. Unfortunately, there the legacy of policies, of regional policies in Africa is that it takes a lot of time to implement. Currently, 17 central banks and 54 commercial banks have signed up to the Pan-African payment system. What can we do to accelerate uptake?
I don't see regional payments using a tier policy as a problem.
Okay.
I very much appreciate the work that has been done to develop PAPSS. But I want to tell you, Asia, the Asian community, they don't have a unique currency, they're still trading with the dollar.
True, but the majority of their trade happens, at least 40 to 45% of their trade happens in Asian currencies, which significantly brings down trading costs. Now, most research, credible research from Gopinath, former chief economist at the IMF, now Harvard, show that when we trade in third currencies, for us developing countries, it increases the dollarization,
yes.
It increases the cost of trade,
absolutely.
The dollarization of our economies, which makes banking crisis and currency crisis much more profound.
Yeah, but what you need to understand is that monetary policy issues are very, very sensitive issues. The first thing you need to look at, we are onboarding PAPSS, the colonial legacy of our monetary systems. For example, take UMO and take CEMAC. Our monetary policies are not defined by us.
True.
This is a clear thing.
If you take CEMAC, for BAP, of course, 60% of
and that is what I'm believing that that's one of the reasons why the two central banks of UMO and CEMAC are reticent to onboard the PAPSS, because instructions are not being taken from within, they are taken from without. And then,
but is it up to them, Mr. Bama? Because in other countries, commercial banks, for example, AfriLand in Nigeria has already signed up to PAPSS, but now it's up to the AfriLand in Cameroon to also take that step.
The problem is this.
What's stopping
commercial banks can sign up,
yes,
but the final transaction is done by the central bank.
Yes, it's a central clearing,
yes,
which will be
with
much
approval from the treasuries
right
of the country. Because we need to understand the procedures.
Yeah.
Before you trade, the treasury department of each country must approve. But they need to capture data on financial flows. Yes, they give the approval now to the central bank, and the central bank now executes. Because it still comes back to policy speaks. The central bank is there to execute what the member state decide.
The central banks have mandates, right?
Yes.
The central banks are equally independent.
Central banks can substitute themselves with the states, which have decided to come into membership. You understand?
Yes, I do. But
yes,
if the central bank is concerned for financial stability, as we hope our central banks are, our central bank only has about 4.5 months of foreign exchange reserves. So what's stopping them from trading in local currencies to reduce the pressure on the foreign exchange reserves? If anything, it benefits.
It's an excellent initiative.
Right?
It's an excellent initiative. Now, when you look at trading with local currencies in Africa,
yes,
the reserves, if you keep, for example, if trading is 1 week, let me take the example of Nigeria and Cameroon. We are trading directly between CFA and Naira. When we have, for example, when we keep like 10 billion of Naira in our central bank, because we import more from Nigeria,
yes, we have
without exporting the equivalent to strike a trade balance and a balance of payment. Now we keep 10 billions of Naira in our foreign bank, and we want to trade now with Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe does not take Naira. What do we do with it?
This is why PAPSS is effective, right? Because it allows us over time to start building those reserves. For example,
PAPSS does the compensation.
Let's say for example, the Chinese renminbi, we have to start filming. Can we start? But let's just start. Let's take for example.
Let's move forward.
Okay. And then
we're starting, right?
We're going to do.
I've been taking.
You've been okay. No, we're going to start now properly. If we fill the memory card, remove it and just delete it. Let's do one properly.